So what makes ITAD super exciting, right? Like the sales are actually not difficult. If you get into like Fortune, let's say 100 contracts, one contract could be worth $1.5 to $2 million easily annually. So right now, the best campaigns are like just enterprises. Right now, a lot of enterprises refresh their hardware. So general ITAD, buyback ITAD, kind of driven campaigns do relatively well.
Welcome to the first ever episode of Lock the Deal podcast, where we break down the real strategies driving outbound success. Today, we're diving into ITAD sales, the challenges of inbound, and how Nextus.ai is reshaping the future of outbound. Stay tuned as we share insights, tactics, and hear what's next for Nextus.
Hey everyone.
Hey there.
Well, Vlad, we're finally here. Our first podcast. I guess like we were maturing for the last year, but I feel that we gathered a lot of insights, a lot of kind of knowledge, and I feel that especially in the ITAD space and marketing in ITAD and in sales, we have a lot of things to tell. So if everybody, who are involved in this space, like I think there's going to be a lot of good stuff here that we're going to speak about today. And not only like if there's involvement in kind of B2B high ticket service sales, like this is very much adaptable with what we do. So yeah, hopefully this is one of the many to come in the future. So this is definitely what we want to kind of aim to kind of on the side of our kind of company where we handle a lot of marketing and sales. We want to kind of spread insights and knowledge into our social medias. So yeah, Vlad, I'm super excited, super happy. So how long have you been in the ITAD space? And what is ITAD in general?
Well, ITAD, IT as a disposal, so taking old hardware and giving credit back to the customers, kind of like a used car dealerships with extra certifications almost. And I've been in ITAD for a bit over 9 years already.
Right. So I've been in ITAD for like 1.5 years. You kind of teach me everything, what's going on. And when I speak with other people who were not in this space, nobody knows. Like nobody knows. It's such kind of a hidden industry that it kind of already have this created pitch of explaining what it is. But yeah, like it's very kind of unique industry. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, there is around 6,000 companies in ITAD space globally. Not ITAD companies who specifically works with retired hardware. So yeah, pretty niche.
Yeah, pretty niche. But this industry is supposed to grow from $16 to $32 billion in the next 8 years. And most of it is, by the way, is driven a lot by AI. But the reason why I decided to move into industry with you, man, when we opened up our digital agency is because we looked at two things. With AI and mass firings that are happening, it's good for ITAD, for end user equipment to get that. And then with AI and infrastructure that's been built through AI, the data centers that are specifically AI, those are also going to be worth very, very lucrative to our ITADs. So in the way, no matter how you look, the impact of AI on the industry in ITAD, it's a win-win-win. Where I would be coming from the other industries where AI would be just replacing, let's say, my job with just nothing to give in return back.
Exactly. And how many industries can say that AI is not a threat to them, it actually helps them. And ITAD is one of those. Like I don't know any other that kind of does that. And I remember when we kind of Google searched of the market trends, how much is it going to grow the industry in the next few years? It's doubling. So these are the crazy numbers. And, me and you see right now of the investor interest in these companies. Like if the company has like strong pipeline, a lot of investors come in interested in, like we already firsthand saw many companies being sold like for a really good amount of money.
Two of our customers got bought out last year. So
good pipelines. Yes.
Good pipelines. Yep.
Yeah, speaking about pipelines, so how to build a pipeline?
Good. So let's talk about, first of all, ITAD sales, right? So what makes ITAD super exciting, right? Like the sales are actually not difficult. Like if you start thinking about comparing ITAD sales to like cloud, security, cyber, or other IT services, ITAD is just super. It's a lot of simpler sales process, which is great. But what makes ITAD super convoluted is because, first of all, you don't know who are exact people that are handling it. But second of all, there's two types of actually sales in ITAD. There's inbound stuff that you're getting into the your facility, and that's when 90% of the ITADs are actually focused on growing, because that's the hardest part, is to get those Fortune 500 contracts with large organizations saying that you're their sole ITAD provider. And then the other efforts they put into the kind of outbound efforts. It's funny, but we actually have a full kind of like a buyers list that is chronologically related in terms of like who is the best buyer for ITAD. So just to kind of allude you to it. So for example, you have other ITADs who buy your hardware. You can have brokers that buy your hardware. Then you have specialized buyers that are good. With the specialized buyers, you also can get a little bit of end user pricing, but like retail end user pricing via eBay, which is a low end on e-commerce, and Amazon, which is on the high end e-commerce. But then there's also, you can resell your equipment to value added resellers and the end users. And the price difference is almost 5x. It's just crazy how different this whole industry from just that last outbound sales. But then on the inbound stuff, oh my God, man. When we
And
tried to figure out how to generate leads, how many different titles we had to go through.
yeah, but the good thing is that everybody kind of wins here in this kind of funnel. Like large enterprises get rid of their retired tech, which not always see as a lot of value. They kind of, how we like to say it, like they're like trash men with the suit. The people in the ITAD, right? So large enterprises want to get rid of their retired hardware. Like ITAD companies come in, they resell, and like everybody's happy. So what types of outbound buyers there are?
So actually, I kind of just mentioned them. So for the outbound buyers, so this is what the ITAD sells their equipment to. This is the problem with a lot of ITADs out there, man. 90% of their effort are focused on the wholesale and wholesale pricing. So they sell their equipment to brokers, and then brokers, like I kid you not, I know a lot of brokers who just buy equipment from ITAD organizations, and then they resell that equipment on Amazon straight up. And the markup they can make is minimum 30%, but usually it's about 40 to 60% higher. And they don't have to process the equipment and provide any services nearly as much as ITADs do. So my always the question was like, why ITADs cannot just go generally on Amazon and just start getting some of that end user pricing. But in terms of outbound buyers, I think I already just mentioned them. It's either recyclers, it's the brokers, it's retail, kind of eBay, Amazon, it's specialized buyers, and then we go into MSPs who can actually buy your equipment on a really, really good pricing, and the end users. Just to give you guys an example, one time I had a Lenovo T450s laptops that I had to sell, and I was doing an in-depth research on like what the pricing I can get, and I had about 500 of them. So the pricing I got from essentially other wholesales was $120 a laptop. I sold those for $350 to my VAR client that I actually usually work on a kind of an upstream perspective on inbound. I sold them for $350 a pop to him, and then he turned around and sold those for $650 to the end user.
This is like 3x, right? This is like crypto back in the day. Pretty much some crazy numbers. And I was extremely surprised, like with one of our clients closing this huge deal, like how much of revenue, let's say one huge deal with large enterprise, let's say maybe Fortune 500 could bring, let's say, what is the potential of one client, let's say, of bringing revenue for the ITAD company?
So in a lot of cases, sometimes what we notice is that you work with large enterprise, you can have a very good lucrative projects that just come from like outbound email campaigns or just a good annual agreements. Average annual agreements with, so here's my mark. Obviously, I cannot talk specifically, like we're all bound to some agreements, but average $17.7 million in IT budget will result in a net of a 33 to 54,000 gross profit to the ITAD organization. Meaning, if the company has at least 17 to 20 million IT budget, you should expect it to be $40,000 profitable on an annual basis. That usually translates to about 500, 600 employees. But now, if you get into like Fortune, let's say 100 contracts, one contract could be worth $1.5 to $2 million easily annually.
Gotcha. And usually these are recurring, if
Yes.
everything done correctly. Yeah, regarding inbound sales, so what makes them difficult in your opinion?
Well, so the number one difficulty is the process. It's to figure out who actually responsible for it. So you just said ITAD is like a trash industry with a suit, right?
Yeah.
Well, if you think about it, it's a trash industry, right? Who wants to talk to a trash guy?
Not many people.
Not many. Not until you have trash to dispose of. So the first
That's
biggest problem is nobody needs you until they really need you. So
time.
you know how those commercials got milk? Those funny commercials got milk? Well,
Hmm.
the whole idea of those is like, do you have enough milk? Nobody cares about purchasing milk until they run out of it. Well, this is reverse in ITAD on e-waste perspective. And nobody cares unless until they have equipment to get rid of. So number one is timing, and number two, how many titles handle it? Like
Hmm.
we at this point have a repository of over 1,000 leads in ITAD, 1,000 different companies that evolved and wanted to work with us. And the titles out of those 1,000 are probably going to be at least 200. So, and the reason why is because it's a trash job, everybody wants to pass it on to the last person.
That's true.
So in that case, finding the right person and the right time, that's very difficult. And what's and because that's a process is very difficult, you're really gonna have a very hard time scaling it via cold calling. Now,
Hmm.
that is what the industry does a lot of times is they try to cold call and offer those services. And the way they usually position themselves as the best in class, give us a chance, let me prove you. And they will do nothing but call all the CTOs, CIOs, and maybe VPs of ITs, uh, just trying to like, yeah, give us a chance, let us prove ourselves, let us prove ourselves, right?
Hmm.
On the big level, on the getting the contract. What we found out sometimes getting hold of directors and having director giving you a specific project that they need to be disposed of, that can be lucrative. Like the biggest project that I think our clients closed that I know of was 385,000 that they paid, not that even sold over, but it's close to 500,000, just a one project from the lead that we generated, right? So there's a possibility of that, but sometimes it's a $2,000-3,000 project, but you take care of a small project, you build a champion within the organization via director level, and then you start moving up the chain. Yeah, the way that I did it is I would try to get interest with one director in one large organization, do an excellent job for him, and then ask for referrals for other directors. Whether they give me or not, I told them, listen, I'm going to reach out to other directors. Would you mind saying a few good things about me? If they will ask, if your colleagues are going to ask you about me, they usually say, yeah, not a problem, of course, man. So then I would use that person as a reference to get in and to start building more connections with other directors, help other 2 or 3 projects there. So by the time I actually go to a VP who's saying, hey, we can do this whole thing annually and do better than the other ITAD, I already had case of a multiple pickups that I did for a client. So at that point in time, it was super easy to convert the client from just a onesie, twosie pickups towards the multi-annual agreement.
No, that's some dedication. But Vlad, you done it all, right? You did cold emails. So,
Mhm.
like, how do you think like these two compare to each other in the efforts? Like, what's your experience on that?
Well, first of all, my experience in cold calling, how to say it, in Russia, we had a very good saying. Like when I went to the photo studio, it said something like, quality of the picture depends on the face of the customer. Well, in this case, I would say a guy named Christian or Jonathan might have a much better job at cold calling than Vladimir with a Russian accent. So, because when I called, it was the Vladimir with Russian accent cold calling when Trump just got elected into 2016. Like, if anything, I think I got a lot more laughs about this whole thing than actual clients when I was doing cold calling. I just realized for me that was absolute miserable experience. I never wanted to do it again. So this is where, like, my company had at that point in time, the company I worked for had access to a specific databases, like a ranking, ZoomInfo, like there was actually no ZoomInfo, it was ranking and discover.org. So we had access to one of those databases. I downloaded the contacts, cleaned them up, and started doing my first campaigns. After 3 months of cold calling and only generating one positive, good, like conversation, meaningful, I was desperate. My fourth month is when I launched the campaign, and it was not even the best campaign ever. I already had about 15 calls scheduled.
Mhm.
I was just crazy. So, and then over kind of a year, I perfected it. My company, on average, would send about over 5 million of cold emails annually, and we would generate anywhere between 17 to 1800 leads on an annual basis.
When was that? What year?
So it was from 2017 to 2019, approximately.
Gotcha. Yeah. So as I understand, cold email is a better option because, as you said before, we need to be on time with certain people, and with cold email, you kind of
Mhm.
remind of yourself. Of course, a very important thing is data, right? You do need to have a lot of good and quality data of people that you could outreach. That's why we just scraped just this week 2 million of leads. So we did quite a bit, but um, let's say, what is your approach with Nextus right now? Maybe you can give some insights on what types of campaigns are kind of working the best right now, and where we see the best success.
So, that's a great question. Um, which campaigns work the best? Well, I think this is where you kind of do need to put some years in the industry first to kind of have the insight. So, for example, right now, our educational campaigns do very little because the school year is very busy. But the best time to do educational campaigns would be starting end of May and all the way to mid-April. So right now, the best campaigns are like just enterprises. Right now, a lot of enterprises refresh their hardware. So general ITAD, buyback ITAD, kind of driven campaigns do relatively well. There's a couple other angles that we have that are kind of more or less secret sauce that I don't want to disclose yet. I kind of want my customers to benefit from it the most, and nobody else. Pardon, on that end. So, but then coming into a summer, coming into a slower season, that's where most of our enterprise campaigns are actually going to slow down, and most of the educational campaigns are going to go up. And for educational campaigns, because they're going into this kind of a holiday season, and they can get this old hardware out of the way very, very easy. And right now, all the enterprises refresh their hardware because they got the new IT budgets.
Yeah, and a lot of layoffs as well. Like a lot of companies laying off, and they wanna sell out. So that definitely also like helps ITAD businesses. But Vlad, like we
My
had
friend,
tons
you disclosing secret sauce.
of
All right.
no,
Well,
no,
let's be frank. Trump is firing a bunch of people right now. And we all know that in ITAD world, every time there's a lot of firings, there's a hardware that needs to be disposed of. Let's just leave it there.
let's just leave it
In-
there. But all right, without dropping too much of a secret sauce, Vlad, like we spoke with a bunch of ITAD companies, like
Mhm.
bunch of owners, decision makers in the space, and a lot of them actually tried cold emails, but a lot of them did not succeed, right? So like we had only a handful of conversations that were like semi-successful, but we never seen it to like a very scaled level. So what do you think? Why did we manage to build such a big pipelines for our clients, and like the other companies did not succeed that?
Okay. Well, that's a great question. Well, number one is, I would say, experience. Experience matter of what's happening, what's working. Freedom of going anywhere. Every time I talk to a new ITAD client, the first parameters I have, and which is everybody wants, like all the big ITADs want this massive email text sent only to C and VP level of the largest organizations. Like
Oh, yeah.
the problem I have with the ITAD, like when ITAD companies do their own marketing, is they basically thinking that direct marketing it's like cold calling. I'm just gonna pick up my phone, do 3,000 dials, and I'm gonna get somebody eventually somehow. It doesn't really work that much in ITAD kind of a marketing. You start sending emails to VP and C-level executives. They on average have 3 fake email addresses, so you don't know which email address actually receives them. Also, when those email addresses receive your spam email, they also mark it as a spam, most likely. So a lot of customers end up burning their domains when they first arrange their email marketing, especially the customers who work through ZoomInfo. When they sign up for the ZoomInfo and they use their own domain to sign up with the ZoomInfo, and then they start competing with the guys like me with this large text, and they start getting just spam blocked, their domain will go in terms of reputation.
Yeah, and like you and me, like we needed to like burn a lot of infrastructures when we just started, because there are just so many of these nuances, so many of these points that are kind of all chain, right? And if the some part of the chain does not work, like it all plummets. So all of the chain has to be
Real
like
quick,
one.
we
Huh?
burned 15,000 email inboxes last year for our clients and ourselves. 14,000. So if you guys go and check out the Google pricing, obviously we get discount because we have bulk. But even if you take 14,000 inboxes for $3, we spent $42,000 just a basically trial and error with inboxes getting burned.
Just within that.
$42,000. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's where we're kind of lucky, I would say, because we have such a good clients. With clients, our clients stay with us very, very long time, and that gives us a kind of this idea of go out there and experiment and actually have a bit of that flexibility to go out there to try multiple angles, to have multiple clients asking for multiple angles, to try it out and see what's working, what's not, and then fine tuning it using math and data every single month over months over months.
I think this is the main separator, why we kind of right now have all this knowledge and build up all these processes that do generate consistent flow of leads. Is just because we burn a lot of cash, Vlad, a lot of emails and a lot of cash. It was definitely not easy, but email world is cool. It is cool. It's important to
Listen,
like
man,
a couple of steps ahead though.
the amount of inboxes we burned, I think, is enough to almost pay off my mortgage. But I don't have a lot of mortgage too. But man, this is crazy.
Yeah, it is. So I also have a question. Like we're speaking a lot of about marketing, but about sales. So what like makes good sales in ITAD? Like what kind of differentiators of a salesman stand out in closing better deals from somebody that is not able to close? Like what characteristics of a salesperson?
Okay, that's a great question. And I think you know what? Maybe on the next ITAD we should talk about the ITAD sales process specifically too. So
Okay.
here's the markings. Organizations, they're like top level executives wanna do like oh, I want this lead, I want this Costco lead, I want this eBay lead, I want this like Amazon lead, I want to handle it. But then they'll take it, they'll send 1 or 2 emails, and then they would just stop following up. So, in my opinion, the first and foremost, what I noticed is that the owners and the high-end directors and VPs of salespeople in ITAD, they make up a great salespeople. They can talk to a client, they will know their infrastructure, they'll know how to maneuver the client really, really well. But these people make terrible SDRs because they're too busy to do multiple follow-ups. So I would say the first markings of a great sales guy here is tenaciousness, is to follow up constantly. You're dealing with IT people who have 60 other projects besides your trash job. We just talked about trash job not being important. So they responded one positively. What we notice is like the clients who don't get response back on their initial connections to our potential clients right away. Like if they don't see the response right away, they get discouraged. And then usually, and the top salespeople who follow up day after day after day, the cold calls on our leads, they see what was that? What was the difference? Okay, give you guys a difference. The owner that occasionally does 1 or 2 follow-ups on our leads is on average is about 1.6 ROI on our marketing spend. And then the guys who just brutal, tenacious follow-ups on all the leads are average about 5 to 9x ROI on our marketing. So that's the first thing I want to say, is the tenaciousness of a follow-ups, and a lot of people in ITAD are fat and happy. They're not hungry.
Yeah, relentlessness, and money is in the follow-ups. Like literally, like this is one of the like main rules. Like the following up has to be continuous, and a lot of people are thinking that if they're following up every few days, it's annoying, like they don't want to be annoying to other people, but it's actually not. Like we're living in this digital like world where we have such amount of other things to do. Like we just simply sometimes forget to respond, or just like think that we're going to respond later and forget. And like what I've seen when me doing sales for the marketing agency, like the decision makers start admiring me when I follow them up 10
Mhm.
times without getting a response, because they think, okay, my sales team does not do that. This guy is relentless. Although sometimes I use AI, but yeah, this guy is relentless. Like he's following up me for like third week, 10 follow up without getting a response, and this shit works literally. So like follow-ups, I think is the main number one thing like that
Number
needs
one.
to be taken seriously. Yeah.
Number two is the strength of downstream, to make sure they have a strong downstream, they have strong pricing. Every ITAD says they have the best downstream, but that's not the case. So, like, if the ITAD doesn't have access to end users or even Amazon, they're already losing the war compared to a lot of other ITADs. Just leaving it out there. So the third, and I think kind of the most important one is a lot of ITADs. They kind of have this salivating all or nothing approach. Oh, Costco lead. What do I do? What do I do? Best Buy lead. Okay, okay. I need to push. I need to push. I need to push. They don't really even take time to kind of find out what the company truly needs. Like that's hence why I said working with director and handling a few projects, figuring out their pain points first, try going to the top level. We figure out, so a lot of ITAs they try to do selling from top to bottom, and we figured out that actually doing sales from bottom to the top works a lot better. I'll put it this way.
Yeah, but like what I saw, like we do close a lot of managers as well, which was initially surprising for me. But we get a lot of interest responses from managers, and they're like responsible for like retired hardware within their company. So definitely managers needs to be also approached. Of course, the infrastructure has to be strong, because there are in some companies, especially Fortune 500s, like thousands of managers, right? So we might target some people that are not working with the retired hardware, but it is normal. Like in outreach in ITAD, like this is inevitable, right? The the kind of infrastructure, strong infrastructure that is capable of maintaining itself, like it's very, very important, and it's kind of the base floor of everything that we're doing. That like ITAD space like really hooked me up. Like for the last 1.5 year, you kind of been training me, like, and I still feel that I don't know a lot of the things, because there's so many different variables. But this industry is definitely a place that people should stay, because it's doubling up in the next few years. Like what other industry like have these good of a result? So I kind of really, really like it. We do have quite a bit of approaches for the future. I guess we
Mhm.
can keep them in the next episodes, and where we could discuss them, some different angles. The one we recently found out just yesterday, we were very excited for that. We'll implement it to our clients, but this should really be something
Yeah.
something potentially very huge.
Yeah.
And
And what can we do a quick, actually, like for our viewers, if you guys don't mind, can you guys? So we're thinking of next is to talk about different downstream buyers and show the levels of like different buyers and where you can find them and how to find them. We can talk about the upstream and how to do the better targeting and which titles more responding to it, or a little bit on the upstream strategy to Edvinas. Um, or we can talk about specifically about the industry, where the industry is going, and the kind of industry specific campaigns. If you guys don't mind, comment on the bottom below which podcast you want next.
Yeah. So many more to come. I'm excited. It's gonna be fun. We're gonna keep doing what we do. So Vlad, really nice speaking with you. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I guess we can make those every couple of weeks potentially, hopefully. And yeah, really nice speaking with you as always.
absolutely. Likewise.
Thank you, everybody. Goodbye.